We'll start it right off with the defensive ends. And I'll be honest, it's been like 2 months since it happened, but Von Miller, guys. Von, Von Miller's a Buffalo Bill. It's still real. I don't think I'm going to quite be able to believe it for myself until I see him, take the field week one. But at defensive end, Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, Boogie Basham, Shaq Lawson. We got Mike Love, and then the undrafted free agents, Kingsley Jonathan and Daniel Joseph. If you listened last week, kind of the same thing as last week. I'm not really going to touch on the undrafted free agents too much. Just not a ton I know about them first and foremost, but again, kind of with the depth of this roster, you have to have the bodies there in camp, and I don't think very many of these players really have a great shot at cracking the roster. And I talked about it last week. Jalen Weidermeyer is the one that I think has the best chance. So on the defensive side of the ball, you're pretty much returning everybody from the number one defense. I don't really see it likely that any of these undrafted rookies are cracking the roster. So on paper, the room looks very deep to me. You have some veterans there, some younger guys. But when I kind of take another look at this, I think Von Miller is really the only established player. I think we saw some good things out of Rousseau in his rookie year. In particular, I think he was very good against the run. I think working with Von Miller is really going to help him take that game to the next level. But there's some unknowns here, and there's some betting on traits. And we're still kind of waiting for Epinesa to break out. We're still waiting to see what Basham looks like. And then we have Shaq Lawson. He was great in his first trip around with the Bills. Boogie Basham actually reminds me of Shaq Lawson a little bit. Just stout against the run, and we saw him leave Buffalo and never really have the same success. So I'm excited for Shaq Lawson. I have high hopes there, but are we getting the player that he last was with the Bills, or are we seeing kind of the player that he was after he left the Bills? So for me, the biggest competition here that we got to keep an eye on is that kind of 3-4-5 spot with Epinesa, Basham, and Shaq Lawson. And my hopes here is that having the veteran brought in Shaq Lawson, and these guys are also going to be, working with Von Miller, future Hall of Famer, day in and day out. And I'm kind of hoping that top end of Von Miller and the veteran on the back end pushing them really starts getting the best out of Epinesa and Basham, and we really see them develop and come into their own. The bright side for all of these players is there's not really much behind them, and with the rotation that we like to use against the defensive line, I think those top 4 or 5 guys, we see a whole lot of all of them. I don't think there's going to be nearly as much as like the healthy scratches of Basham or Epinesa like we saw last year. I think that was a conscious decision moving on from Jerry Hughes to kind of free up these snaps to let these guys get their chance. Because if you still got Hughes on the roster, you're not. I don't know if you're taking him off the field to get another look at Boogie Basham. So that I feel like they were kind of consciously investing in these young guys and knowing that they had the investment in them and feeling comfortable and kind of saying, hey guys, it's your time to shine out there.